Section 3 of the Petition for Injunction for Protection Against Domestic Violence begins at the bottom of page 2 and ends at the bottom of page 4 of the form. Subsection 1 of Section 3 asks whether the petitioner has ever received or attempted to get an injunction for protection against domestic violence against the respondent in this or any other court. If so, state what took place in that case in the space provided, and include the case number if known. Subsection 2 of Section 3 asks whether the respondent has ever received or tried to obtain an injunction for protection against domestic violence against the petitioner in this or any other court. If so, state what took place in that case and include the case number if known. Subsection 3 of Section 3 requests that you describe any other court case that is going on now or that has happened in the past between the petitioner and the respondent. This may include a dissolution of marriage, paternity action, or child support enforcement action. Include the city, state, and case number for that other case or cases, if known. Subsection 4 of Section 3 states that you are either a victim of domestic violence or you have reasonable cause to believe that you are in imminent danger of becoming a victim of domestic violence. In this section, you will mark all sections that apply to what the respondent has done. And you will describe in the spaces below the incidents of violence or threats of violence, specifying when and where they occurred, including, but not limited to, locations such as a home, school, place of employment, or time-sharing exchange. There are a number of different boxes that may be selected, and you may select as many of these boxes that are appropriate to your case. Read the different subsections carefully and check all that apply. If you're not sure whether something applies or not, you may check the box, and then in the space provided further in the section, you will be able to provide additional details as to whether the incidents include the specific examples provided in subsection 4. So in the space provided, you will be able to write a brief description of the latest act of violence or threat of violence that causes you to honestly fear imminent domestic violence by the respondent. Make sure to provide the date as well as the location of this latest act of violence or threat of violence, and provide as much detail as possible in the space provided in this section. If you need to provide additional pages in order to continue the facts of the description of the latest act of violence or threat of violence, feel free to do so, but ensure that you are selecting the box as well so that the court is aware that you are attaching additional pages to your description. In subsection 5 of section 3, you are able to add additional information. There are a number of boxes that you may select in order to provide additional information to the court. Indicate all that apply to your situation. This includes other acts or threats of domestic violence, as described on the attached sheet. Make sure to check this box if you are including facts regarding an act or threat of domestic violence that is not simply the most recent act or threat of domestic violence, to ensure that the judge is aware that there were prior incidents to the most recent incident. You may also, under subsection B, indicate whether this or other acts of domestic violence were previously reported to either an official or an agency. If so, provide details as to who the act was reported to in greater detail in the space provided. You may also indicate whether the respondent owns, has, or is known to have guns or other weapons in subsection C. If so, check the appropriate box and describe the weapons. You may also indicate whether the respondent has a drug problem in subsection D, whether the respondent has an alcohol problem in subsection E, or whether the respondent has a history of mental health problems in subsection F. If this is the case, you have additional questions that must be answered yes or no in order to provide as much detail to the court as possible.